Hello everyone, good morning to all of you. It's me again, June from Star Media Group. Thank you so much for tuning in to second day of Star Media Group's Work as Health live virtual forum. Whether you are watching this on WebEx, Starbiz Facebook or the Star YouTube, we hope you, your family and friends are staying well and innovative in this new normal. Also, if you're watching us on Starbiz Facebook or the Star YouTube, don't forget to share it with your friends. And we hope you have enjoyed the opening session yesterday. Okay guys, now we are very excited to kickstart today's program. Today we have a great lineup of sharing sessions by work-life wellness and health gurus waiting for you. For a start, on this morning we have 3 esteemed speakers who will share with us topics surrounding physical, lifestyle and social wellness. And our sponsor, Doctor on Call, will also be speaking about the sustainable employee healthcare benefits through digital health. Okay, to learn more about the forum program and profile of our speakers, you may scan the QR code on the top right of your screen, or you can visit us at bit.ly/WXHagenda. I repeat, it is bit.ly/WXHagenda. Okay guys, to those who already tuned in yesterday, I guess you already know the drill, and to those who just joined us today, a few quick housekeeping matters before we kick off. As everyone dials into the session through different internet bandwidth and devices, you may or may not experience minor technical glitch. So please be patient if there's any. For WebEx participants, your microphone and video cam are turned off by default. However, you still can chat with the events crew directly if you need any assistance. Or you can email to us at events@thestar.com.my. If you have any questions for our speakers, please feel free to post it on the chat box. And lastly, and more importantly, please remember to engage, learn, and enjoy. So guys, we have reached to our first agenda of the day. But before that, I have one question for you guys. Do you know that Malaysia is one of the most obese countries in Asia? Guys, that's the bitter truth. I didn't make that up. That's a fact. However, don't worry, because today we have an expert with us today, which will focus on helping employers to understand 10 reasons why employees are overweight and how it impacts productivity and what are the approaches corporation can take to address the issue. Kevin Zahari, who is currently the director of Kisi events, is an award-winning US certified personal trainer and nutritionist with over 15 years of experience. Kevin is also the founder of Malaysia's largest weight loss movement called Jom Kurus. Ladies and gentlemen, without further ado, let's ask Kevin, what are the reasons? Kevin, the stage is yours.
Okay, Assalamualaikum and very good morning. Thank you, June, for the very kind introduction. Good morning to everybody. Welcome to Work X Health with the Star. Congrats to the Star for putting together an amazing 2-day workshop virtually. The new norm for, I think, everyone in Malaysia and around the world. This is actually my very first virtual conference, and I have to be honest, it's different. I'm used to interacting with the crowd, with all of you as well. But we have to, what we call in Malaysia, bersyukur dengan apa yang ada, and really make the best out of the situation that we've been given. But with all these changes as well, whether it is personally or at work, we have to count our blessings. It could be a lot worse. Now, my talk for today is really all about giving my insights to you about the 10 reasons why your employees are overweight, and perhaps this is really a personal 30-minute or so sharing, not just about me and my experience, but I am sure every one of you who is watching, you have your own experiences with fitness, weight management, corporate wellness, and I would like very much that I can share my insights with you. But God willing, at the end of my slot, we'll have some time for Q&A. So feel free to ask as many questions as you have to make it something relevant for you personally that you can apply to yourself perhaps, but also more importantly, bring these teachings, learnings back to your corporation to help combat obesity in Malaysia, which has been a problem for forever, really. Malaysia is the largest or has the highest rate of obesity in Asia. If we're not number one, we're typically around number 1, 2, or 3. We're fighting it out with Brunei, but I think there's no denying that obesity is a huge problem in Malaysia, whether at work, communities, schools as well. And it's a problem that really requires everyone to play their part. And it is not a crash course, 6-week, everyone is kurus or already in shape. It really is going to take a generation over many, many initiatives, which again, you can play a part in. Now, I personally have been active in the industry really for the last, 15, 20 years. I know I may look young on TV, but in reality, no spring chicken here. I am 42 years old. So again, the times do change in terms of taking care of my own health as well. But I've been conducting, I think last night I was trying to calculate how many talks I've given with various corporate sectors, private and public, and I would probably look at close to 1,000 sessions from various corporations, from oil and gas to industries, manufacturing, the government sector, and schools as well. And no matter which company you work in, there's always a high percentage of obesity, which is something that requires a lot of attention, because like it or not, there's a cost component to obesity, whether it is productivity, absenteeism, and of course, insurance costs and medical expenses. So now, for today's session, which is very limited, I have another about 20 minutes or so. I want to share with you my experience over the years in helping individuals lose weight, whether on the public arena or on the corporate sector. What are the main reasons that employees or individuals can't seem to get their weight under control? Now, number one, very important is really the lack of fundamental understanding. And I would like to put you guys on the spot. I know I cannot see you. I was told there are hundreds of you right now watching this, hopefully from a safe space at your office or at home. And I want to put you on the spot. I want to ask you a question. You can try and answer it yourself or let me know at the end of the session whether you get it right. But I do these kinds of Q&As a lot during the programs as well. And the question is this: assuming an individual named Siti consumes 1,500 calories per day. Siti consumes 1,500 calories per day, but she burns 2,000 calories per day. Now, again, she burns 2,000, but she consumes 1,500 calories. Assuming her weight today is 60 kilos, what will her weight be tomorrow? More, same, or less? And exactly what will her weight be tomorrow? That's question number one. Again, it's your own free will, so go. I was saying is to answer the question, but try and think about it. It's the most fundamental question about weight management. And question number two, it's durian season right now. And everyone in the room here is lighting up with the word of durian. And the question is this: do durian contain cholesterol, yes or no? Does the fruit of durian contain cholesterol, yes or no? Very fundamental question. Many get it right or wrong. I'm not going to give you a hint, but try and figure it out. And number three, if a person wants to flatten his or her tummy, in this room as well. If a person does amazing abdominal workouts, crunches, yada, 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 will that help this person Kempiskan perut or flatten the tummy? Do abdominal workouts help you to actually flatten the tummy? Those are the three most fundamental questions that I would like you to think about. We can discuss it at the end of the session, but try and think about it again, because everything is really about fundamentals. It's really the same thing with running a corporation. It all comes down to the fundamental management of finance, HR, manufacturing. And when it comes to health, it's really all about the fundamentals, which most people don't grasp from the beginning. That's number one. Number two, unrealistic expectation. In most of our programs, we do this very, very popular 6-week weight loss campaign around the country with many corporations as well. It's a lot of fun. It's a 6-week program, but on the day number one, majority of the employees come in with really high expectation, wanting to lose some 10, 15 kilos in a span of 6 weeks. Now, I blame social media really for these unrealistic expectations, because these kind of success stories always make the viral stories of someone losing maybe 10, 15 kilos in a week. And they don't lie, but it does not quite give you the true picture. And these unrealistic expectations are typically a result of, again, false media, and really also about the lack of understanding, which then leads to expectation, which is purely based on what people see and hear in the news. And because of these expectations which are unrealistic, it creates a sense of failure when they don't quite get to what their targets were. So it's the same thing with your employees having a KPI. If the KPI is unrealistic, it creates a false sense of failure or purpose. So setting the right expectations for us in any corporate or public program is really the main key. And I've been instructed right now to move myself physically to the left. Yes? All right. In life, something will always go right. In life, something will always go wrong. And that will lead me to probably tip number 7. I'm going to jump the queue a little bit. I'll go back to number 3 later. But since we're at the topic of moving myself physically somewhere, something will always go right. Something will always go wrong. When it comes to weight management in our program, most individuals don't allow themselves to make mistakes. They think about this perfect diet, perfect exercise, perfect weight loss journey. They think about a stock price, which either goes steadily up all the way or steadily down all the way, but they can't really accept the up and downs that comes with a process, a roller coaster of weight management, and that creates stress. But if an individual understands that it's a package deal, a virtual session like this comes with right and wrong, and you are acceptant of these mistakes, then the journey becomes a lot more menggembirakan, which in English basically means it's a happy journey. And that brings us to number 3, which is happiness and stress. I am known as a happy guy. I don't know why, but everywhere I go, people say I always smile a lot, and I'm always happy. And they always tell me that they struggle with themselves and their happiness. Now, don't get me wrong. Weight loss, yes, requires a lot of understanding and education. But if mentally within yourself you are unhappy due to stress, Facebook, no money, too much money, COVID-19, yada, 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 a lot of stresses in life can create unhappiness. And if you are unhappy, it leads to stress. And stress leads to various avenues which can then compound the problem. As an example, conversation happened yesterday with an employee who used to work for the publishing sector as well, company I shall not mention. He lost his job, I think, about few months ago for various reasons. And he's stressed. Life is stressful, and he channels the stress to food, which again makes it a problem which is just going to make it worse. Now, individuals, companies, corporations, schools even, we all are faced with stress. But the key for me, and this is cakap senang, it's easy to convey, you need to find a way to channel the stress in a way that makes it meaningful. Now, exercise is one of the best way to channel stress. During the whole lockdown period, I was at home as well. I was not allowed to leave the house by my wife. Why? She told me I don't take good care of my hygiene. She doesn't trust me with the sanitizer and all, which is fair enough. I think that's why also I think more men have COVID-19, I was told, than women, because women are more hygienic per se, but different topic. So basically, I used home workouts. We conducted the daily life home workouts on Instagram and Facebook, and it helped me to really channel stress in a really confined environment where you are stressed because you don't have much space, you can't go out and release stress, so you don't have an avenue that's productive to release stress, to make you happy. You go to the kitchen and you makan, you makan and you makan and you makan, and it just compounds the problem. So don't underestimate the happiness in the part of making your employees lose weight. If your corporate structure is extremely stressful, and many of these corporate structures, depending on the industry that you're in, are stressful, you need to make corporate wellness something that is happy. It should resound happiness individual wanting to join a corporate wellness initiative, which many, if not all, companies have. But if the corporate wellness initiative itself becomes stressful because of the KPI and you must do this and that, then it becomes something that they don't want to do, and it adds more stress instead of actually helping your employees to release stress. When we go to corporations and more physical adjustment, backwards, is it? So sorry, too aggressive right now. So I'm trying to. Oh, the mic is over here. So if I move forward, there's no mic. Okay, again. Mistakes are all right. Yeah. So now again, if I go to corporations and we consult various industries on running a corporate wellness program, we try to not force HR or training managers to force employees to join, because once they are forced to join, it sort of disrupts the happiness of the program, opposed to the individuals who actually want to join voluntarily. Now, to be honest here, and we run public programs, school programs, and corporate programs. To be very honest with you, corporate programs are less impactful opposed to public programs. And I tell this to every client that we meet. Why? Because if you do a wellness program within the structure of your organization, and I know you have to because of corporate social responsibilities and so forth, it always reminds them of work. Even while they squat or they do their jumping jacks, next to them is their manager and their colleague that reminds them of reports and graphs, opposed to when they join an outside program where they are not reminded of individuals who remind them of work, because like it or not, there is a stress component that comes together with work. So what we then encourage corporations to do is to perhaps sponsor or provide the funds to the employees, empower them and allow them to join outside activities, join outside gyms, which many corporations do as well. They have corporate gym memberships with commercial public gyms, which again provides them an avenue that they can feel free and not are constantly reminded of work. So happiness is an extremely important component. Number 4, and I'm running out of time really quick, surroundings are key. If surroundings are not conducive, either at home or in the workplace, it does not provide a conducive environment for someone to make the change, whether it's the family, the community, the school, or even the corporate environment. If the leadership, the environment, the work-life balance is not quite what you want it to be, it's really hard for someone to make the change. As an example, if a person wants to change his or her diet, but is constantly surrounded by individuals who don't condone, who don't support, or who then don't have that similar type of diet management or lifestyle habits, it's really difficult for one person to thrive and shine and outshine the individuals or the others. So it's really important for the leadership of your cooperation to sort of take the torch, lead by example, not just for one day, because one day does not cultivate change. It has to be a sustainable program that runs throughout the year. I am most busy end of the year. Why? Because a lot of companies have to use up their budget because they cannot use it for the next year. So again, you squeeze everything into a short period of time to satisfy the needs, but it does not cultivate sustainable change. So if you would like a productive, healthy, happy, fit workforce, it really needs to be a seamless, sustainable initiative that runs from January all the way to December. You may even want to look at having a dedicated team that plans various activities. So it does not appeal to just the executives, but upper management, your CEOs, but it has to be driven down top to bottom, has to be supported bottom to up. Can't just do what the CEO wants, but has to be about the individuals that you would like to help. In my case, it's the public or corporations. But for you as a corporate wellness representative of your company, it should be the very employees that you would like to help. All right. So now, number 5. A lot of individuals fail in their ability to lose weight because they have this do or die approach. Do or die approach means they go on these whack diets, which no rice, no nasi, no bread, no sugar, no this, no that. Cannot. You will not last long because it does not make you happy. Makanan, we say in Malay, makanan menggembirakan. Durian menggembirakan. Nasib baik kan? No, food is joy at the end of the day, and joy brings happiness. If you deprive yourself of the foods that you enjoy, it's not going to be a sustainable journey. It's the same thing with work. If the work is not enjoyable, it is hard to sustain. But if the work is too enjoyable, then it's not serious. That's also a problem because food, if it's too much joy, it's going to add the weight. Too much durian, too much joy, not really advisable. Same thing goes for calories as a whole. So then it comes down to that balance of happiness and stress. Same thing with exercise. Exercise should make you happy, but too much of it leads to stress, physical, leads to injuries, not going to help. So it's really a balance of putting yourself through something challenging to make yourself change. Same thing with work. If you're always faced with the same tasks every single day, it becomes redundant and it becomes boring. This is my first virtual session. Challenging. I don't know who I'm talking to, but it is something that makes me more experienced in the future, having done something like this. So challenges bring experience. It brings growth. Same thing goes for exercise and dieting. So that balance really of happiness, avoiding the do or die approach when it comes to dieting or weight loss is really key, so that it becomes something that is flexible and sustainable. All right, next we're gonna go with number 6. Again, forget about the numbers. I hope that it is so far meaningful. Next we're gonna go with follow rather than owning. Now this comes back to the Malaysian education, which we are trying to change together with the Ministry of Health. We have a very big campaign involving thousands of schools to really instill creative health education from young, so that when they become adults, that lifestyle and habits are already embedded in their DNA from young. But unfortunately, currently, our education tends to be a bit of follow what is being taught, and that's what you do. So when it comes to our programs as well, we always have the saying of, don't follow anything I say. Don't follow anything I say. Why? Because if you just blindly follow what I say or do, it doesn't really help you to understand and own the problem. The idea is to listen to various nutrition advice, because even if it's not me, there will be other speakers and dietitians and doctors that come to your companies and give presentations. But if the audience just dryly absorbs the knowledge but doesn't really know how to question it, then they never really get to own and empower themselves to then solve their own problem. It's the same thing with work. At the end of the day, you learn the basics in school, but then at the end of the day, you need to be able to apply it in a real life environment and adjust according to the needs. So my advice in any corporate wellness program is get the programs to not just follow the exercises, but question the why and the how. So it becomes something that the individual can mempersoalkan, question for themselves whether it suits the individual or not. Because, for example, even jumping jacks sound and look very, very simple, but for someone who's in their 50s, who may have some knee injuries or lower back problems, this may not be the best advice for someone to do, even though it is as simple as instructor telling you go and do 40 jumping jacks. If I do a corporate seminar and I say, let's go, they all go. But at the end of the day, you have to question whether it is appropriate for the individual or not. And that is empowerment instead of simply following. Time-wise, I only have 7 minutes left. So let me run through it real quick. Number 8, people give up too easily. I have seen it so many times, and it is extremely frustrating for a person who wants to help others. People give up way, way too easily when it comes to overcoming themselves. Weight management, and I'm sure you can relate to this watching this right now. Weight management, fitness, health is between you and you. It's really about overcoming the person that you see in the mirror. I can give you all the advice that you want, but at the end of the day, you have to be the one, filling the food into your mouth. You have to be the one managing your time. You have to be the one managing your motivation, which is very subjective to every individual. And the most frustrating part for me is to see someone lose 20 kilos, great. But then over the years, suddenly you meet them again and their weight has rebounded again, probably back to what it used to be 2-3 years ago. And a lot of people give up when they are faced with difficulties because, again, they channel difficultiness into a stressful situation and channel it to food, and then they give up because they expect the journey to constantly be perfect. So my advice to you as a corporation as well is same logic. If you have faced or are facing obesity in your corporation, don't always try to do the same thing again and again and again. You need to innovate, be creative about finding solutions so that you as a corporation don't give up on solving it, because again, a happier, healthier, stronger workforce is more productive and creates a more conducive environment for everyone. All right, so now, last thing before we open for Q&A, is change takes time. And I know there's this bumper sticker card that says to change a habit takes X number of days, but that is not true. That just looks good on social media, which many things do, but in reality does not work. Change does not really have a time stamp to it. For some individuals, change can take a week. For some, it's just waking up and have some kind of chronic disease that requires immediate decision to change. For others, it takes years to sort of linger themselves through a process of change. There is no black and white do or don'ts when it comes to change. For corporations as well, it's not going to be a 6-week fix to fix weight management or health. It is a never-ending, continually evolving cycle. Roda? How do you say roda in English? Wheel. It's a never-ending wheel that turns, that requires continuous adjustments. Even for me personally, health in my 20s, 30s, and the 40s is always continually evolving, but I make it a sustainable journey so that at the end of the day, it doesn't become something I have to look at once a year and look at all the hutang that I have. If you make health once a year campaign, there's a lot of baggage that you drag with it. But if you make it sustainable throughout the year, then it becomes a less stressful, impactful, painful process, and it becomes something that becomes norm. At the end of the day, you want to make corporate wellness a norm. For it to become a norm, it needs to be sustainable. It needs to be throughout the year. It needs to be continually evolving. And it needs to be fun, so that it's not just fun for the people who are in it, but it's also fun for the very people who manage and organize it. All right, that's really all from me for the 10 reasons why employees, Malaysians, individuals, you, me, everyone else is struggling maybe with weight management. And I look forward to answering some questions that I know we have.
Alright, thank you so much, Kevin, for the very energetic presentation just now. I think he had already given more than 10 reasons why, so I think we can learn a bit more from that. And we have questions from the audience. So from Dr. Sharifah, she's asking, when we organize well-being related programs in the company, how do we celebrate healthy food as part of the event when the employees are so used to be served with unhealthy yet super tasty food? One of the attractions to join the event is food. I like this kind of event. Okay, over to you.
Doctor, so I cannot see her name. Dr. Sharifah?
Dr. Sharifah.
Okay, Dr. Sharifah, thank you for your question. It's a very good question. I go again to various corporate seminars to conduct talks. And there's always a makan session after the talk, and no one wants to sit with me. Why? Because they would feel that I would make comments and judge them on their food choices. And most of the time, you are right, the food choices are not great, but it's better that they are. Now, we're not saying that it's better that they are not great. For me, the food choices have to be real. Now, let me give you an example. Of Bank Negara. Bank Negara, I've done various programs with them. They have a good eating culture whereby the food choices during programs generally are always healthy-ish, not like the white healthy where it's totally white, not yang paling merepek hitam yang memang ke laut. It's always agak moderate with decent proteins, fibers, carbohydrates. So my advice is, don't make the food choices about a singular corporate event. Make the food choices at corporations a sustainable change, so that that is the new norm, that every corporate function has similar kinds of food choices which are healthy, moderate, but not really crazy on both spectrums. Doing a healthy corporate lunch once a year does not drive change. It has to be a culture that starts from today, maybe, and ongoing.
Okay, the key takeaway there is to start is easy, but to maintain is hard. So what we can do as a corporation, we have to always have a sustainable plan so that we can make change through that. Okay, we have another question from Chong. Talking about corporate wellness initiative, I know of some companies which include BMI measurement as part of the KPI. So do you encourage this for corporate to combat overweight staff? So what do you think?
Thank you for your question, Chong. I personally am not a big fan of BMI measurement as part of the KPI. It creates more stress. I would rather that the company makes it an open KPI, maybe for those who need the pressure. I've done various programs with oil and gas companies where the BMI is a must, because otherwise they can't fly on a chopper and go offshore. So it really depends on the organization. I'm not a fan of forcing people to do anything, but I would rather give them an avenue where they see that this value-added pressure on putting the BMI on the KPI is something positive, and then bring up programs to help the individuals combat it. Simply putting the BMI as the KPI without a follow-through program is lazy. So if you want to have a more, maybe a more positive outcome that brings change, make the KPI, the BMI part of the KPI, fine, but you must have programs to actually support and encourage those individuals to then meet those KPIs. And one thing about the BMI is really a very simple ratio of your weight and your height. If you have an individual who has naturally a bit more muscle mass, his BMI would be naturally higher. Not always the best parameter or measurement to dictate whether someone is healthy or not. Yeah, weight is just a number.
Okay, we have more questions from the audience. Keep it coming. So the next one is from Ka Sang. Kevin has repeatedly mentioning happy and happiness. How do you constantly finding happiness in your opinion, Kevin?
Thank you for the question, Ka Sang. Now, happiness is something I think we all crave. Happiness is a pursuit. It is a never-ending journey to constantly find a balance that makes us happy. Happiness is not a destination, if I may say. What that means is you can't really arrive at happiness and that's it. You are never really 100% happy. It's always a journey of making sure that happiness sort of supersedes the stress so that it helps you to stay above the water, whether it is me or you. We all have stresses. It's really important to identify stresses, and then there are physical stresses. Obesity is physical stress. You have your Facebook, social media, mental strain. You have the work stress. You have the physical exercise stress. You have family stress. So as an individual like myself, my ratio of happiness and stress is something very unique to me. I know exactly what makes me happy, and that may change over the years. I know exactly what I don't like and try to stay away from. So I make sure that I focus my energy on things that make me happy. And I spoke to this gentleman yesterday as well, again, who lost his job. I always told him I exercise more when I am unhappy. Why? Because I need to find a way to channel the stress to an area that is productive. And I gave him an example. I was really, not depressed, that I was really down when my mom passed away a long time ago. I was a young 24-year-old boy studying in the US. My final year, my mom passed away as a young man, very hard to cope with. And I knew it's gonna be a long journey of recovery from losing your mom. And B, I have two choices. A, I can channel the sadness and anger to self-destruction, which is very easy to do. Or I can channel the pain and stress to something meaningful. So what I did, I signed up for a triathlon. First time in my life. I put a six months schedule to train. So I really train every day for this triathlon to honor maybe my mom in that case, but it helped to channel something negative to positive, because like it or not, every scenario has two sides to the coin. Whether it's work, family, life, COVID-19, life has two sides. So you choose which side to look at, but you have to be aware of both coins. You can't be in denial and just live happily ever after. There's no such thing. It's good to be aware of the ups and downs, but try to always see the positivity. But I know it's cakap senang if you have this habit of looking at things negatively for many years. And this is again, change of mindset. It is going to take time. How long, I do not know, but you have to constantly remind yourself to think about the positive first before looking at the flip side of it. Challenging, but challenging itself makes me happy. I don't like easy things. I like things that are hard, because hard gives me growth. Growth makes me happy. Failure is not negative. Failure is learning, because you learn about the things that don't work. If I fall on my face, I learned something new. If this session went horribly wrong, for whatever reason, I do not know, life will go on. It'll be all right, and I would have learned a lot. So don't shy away from change. Don't shy away from challenging times. Use it as a blessing. And if I can use one more example, I stay in Mount Kiara, and there are a lot of expats, and there are these amazing Japanese moms, yeah. And Mount Kiara is a hill, if you've been there. And they walk up the hill, yeah, with shopping bags left and right, walking back from the grocery store. One child in the front, one child at the back, walking up the hill. But they are smiling, happy, good morning to you. Why? Because they are honoring their family by hard labor, hard work, but it gives them satisfaction. So when it comes to change, you need to look at the challenge of you allowing to honor your being to become a better version of yourself instead of dwelling in the problems. Dwelling in problems does not solve anything. I had friends of mine who had lost their gyms during this COVID-19 pandemic. Very unfortunate, very hard, but we had this quote in our group of friends that said, if you are in hell, keep going. You cannot just stay there and wait for things to change because it's hell. You have to march forward. It can't get much worse than that. And eventually you find your way out and you can look back at the journey that was meaningful, hard, but a blessing in disguise. And we don't know what the future brings, and that is hope. Hope brings happiness.
Alright, I think the audience are very energetic too now. So because we're receiving a lot of questions, so we have another question from Aileen. So minimum, how frequent should we aim to exercise? So is there any minimum? Yeah, what do you think about it?
I like Aileen. You go for the minimum, not the maximum. Now, let's not talk about the minimum. Exercise is not a must. Yeah, it's not wajib, what we call it in Malay. Exercise is great for many reasons, whether it's cardiovascular fitness, strength, stress management. But more importantly, Eileen, is to not look at exercise alone as a chore, but look at the lifestyle as a whole. Look at your walking, house chores, parenting, moving, climbing up and down, doing things that are not traditional exercises, but things that make you an active lifestyle. I went to Japan a few years ago under a trip sponsored by the government to look at the Japanese way of life. They don't exercise that much, but they walk a lot. They don't drive cars, but they walk and they do and they do and they do. Like the lady, doing her chores with the groceries. It doesn't always have to be exercise. My kids are very active. They play everywhere, but they don't call it exercise. Now, if you want to talk about the traditional exercise, once a week is fine, twice a week is fine, 0 to 1 here and there, it's up to you. But most importantly, Eileen, I would encourage you to move as much as you can. Every movement burns calories. What I would not recommend you to do, this is maybe shocking, I would not recommend, Eileen, to exercise every single day. Why? Exercise is physical stress on your body, and without rest, that can lead to a higher risk of injury. So I will personally limit my exercises to maybe 3, 4, 5 times a week max. As you get older, recovery takes longer. Have to be more mindful of injuries, wear and tear. So again, there's no common rule, but move as much as you can. Make your life exercise and menggerakkan diri, yeah, just to activate yourself. All the best to you, Eileen.
Okay, all the best to Eileen too from me. And yeah, we have a lot more questions, but due to time constraint, we're gonna receive 2 more. So from RJ, Kevin, comment please. Do you think it's important to educate the aging group to keep fit too?
Yeah, it's a very good question, RJ. There's 2 things I would like to talk about on that issue. Number 1, my own experience. My granddad, he's German. We grew up in Germany. He passed away in his late 80s. But up until his mid-80s, he walked every day. He used to walk from his house to his so-called coffee shop, which is probably like 2 or 3 km away. They had a lot of time. So my grandparents biked, walked. They had a garden. I know it's different surroundings compared to Malaysia, but they were never encouraged to not do anything. Unfortunately, sometimes our culture wants to let the elderly rest. And once they start resting, even mentally, they start to shut down. So what we should do instead, now, not do jumping jacks, because that, again, is not conducive for them, but goes back to the Eileen scenario again as well. Just get them to be active mentally and physically with walking, gardening, that prohibits playing with their grandchildren as well. One thing that we are working on, which is the second point, we are working on a campaign with the government as well. I guess it's a long-term campaign on creating community sport leagues for the warga emas, the elderly, so that they can compete in the sports that they love with people at the same age, so that they can have a year-long sustainable lifestyle with people who enjoy the sports or the hobbies that they enjoy as well. The problem sometimes is with the elderly, the community integration is not always very good. So we hope to then integrate communities for the elderly to allow them to be active around the year. Cakap senang, very challenging, something that we are working on. Thank you, RJ.
Alright, we have come to the last question of the day, also from Dr. Sharifah. How do you sustain change in organization when only a small group keen for it?
I think it's a good question as well. Again, Doctor, thank you so much. If only a small group wants to change, start with that small group and make that small group super awesome, super fun, super successful, and make the small group the envy of the others, so that they all want to become part of it. That's how we grew the Jum Kurus program as well. We started off with a really small group, made it a very tight ukhuwah among the individuals. A lot of amazing pictures and fun experience like water rafting, dodgeball, paragliding. Make it so awesome that the others would look into the group and wish that they are part of it. So you have the luxury of managing a smaller group, which is easier than sometimes bringing change to a larger group. But it's in your hands to make this small group as awesome as they are.
Alright, Kevin, I know I mentioned that one was the last question, but we have another one. I think the audience love you so much, so they have a lot to ask. So again, from Queenie, can we slim down to our desired weight and shape without the help of weight management program or weight management supplements? Wow, what do you think, Kevin?
Okay, Queenie, thank you for your question. 100% yes. You can absolutely lose weight, get in the shape of your life without the help of any slimming center, without the help of any weight loss product. Don't believe the promises that the weight loss products tell you. It's something I am combating as well to provide consumer protection, because the janji manis, the sweet promises that they make don't work the way they do. There is no miracle cure. There is no magic product. If there was, then all of us would be in great shape, but it does not work that way. Every supplement supplements kekurangan or something that is lacking perhaps in your life. You have food supplements and non-food supplements. The most common, most misunderstood supplement is the fat burner. And when I say fat burner, a lot of you are intrigued because fat burner, baka lemak, it sounds exactly like what you want to achieve. Reality is it does not burn fat at all. It does not. The ingredient in a fat burner is just really like caffeine, guarana, uhimbe, or mahuang. It's basically a stimulant that increases your metabolic rate slightly. When I say slightly, it could be 0.1%, 0.5%, 1%, nothing at all. It's just like you drinking your Starbucks coffee. It impacts people differently. If it works for you, there will be side effects just like caffeine. If you have a fat burner, you always feel like something is happening, but nothing is happening, because you always feel on the edge, you have anxiety, you're nervous, you're restless, insomnia. People don't use it for a long period of time because they feel uneasy and it does not work the way they think it does. The first time a person buys this fat burner product, they're so excited because they think tomorrow wake up, kudos already. But it does not work that way at all. There was this famous, I think C-SPAN or E-SPAN coverage in the US of A where they called upon Dr. Oz. Dr. Oz is a very famous American TV personality, and he was called upon in C-SPAN to, I don't know what they call it, Senate or what in the US, to answer a query about him promoting this Garcinia Cambogia as a weight loss magic pill, because he is a person of influence. And a lot of his viewers then believe what he says. So he was asked by the panel, Dr. Oz, can a person who is overweight consume this product, this pill, and magically lose weight as you claim? He was trying to goreng the reply. You can Google this on YouTube. And then they stopped him. Again, Dr. Oz, can a person who is struggling with their weight take this pill and lose weight? Yes or no? He said no. Why? Because it does not work the way you think. So then they asked him again, so what would you as a doctor recommend a person who is overweight do to manage their weight? He said two things. A, you have to move, increase your overall calorie output. And B, you have to manage the number of calories that you eat. That brings us to the very first thing we spoke about earlier this morning. Weight management, like it or not, is all about the basics of calories in, calories going out. I know it's extremely boring, but that is the bottom of it all. Like a car. If you isi minyak of a car, and you fuel the car with more gas than the car burns, then your tanki minyak will grow and grow and grow and grow. And you can think about the tank as your fat. If you fill in more food than you're actually burning, that car will become heavier and heavier and heavier. To reverse this, put in less gas than you are burning. Burn more than you are putting in, so that your body needs to start using the tanki minyak, that tank storage, as fuel to help you reduce weight. That is weight loss 101, which is the most basic but not very interesting. People like this kurang 7 kilo 1 week thing, which manipulates water. Different story. We have no time for that, I was told. All the best, Queenie.
All right, thank you so much, Kevin, for the sharing just now. So if yesterday we learned that we need to always stretch ourselves, today we have to always move, okay? If you are in the office, anywhere you are now, move. Don't forget to move, okay? So, Kevin, I believe there are a lot of audience have a lot of questions to you. So do you think they can reach you in any social media, or do you have any final words for them?
Yeah, if you have more questions about anything personally or for your corporation, you can reach out to me at kevinzari.com. You can Google my name, Kevin Zari. We are active on Instagram, Facebook as well. And yeah, I would love to hear from you guys. And my advice to you is don't overcomplicate uncomplicated things, whether it is nutrition, exercise, or corporate wellness. Have fun and make it sustainable. All the best, and thank you so much.
Thank you so much, Kevin.
Thank you.
So maybe next time we're gonna have another session with you, maybe like live virtual Zumba or anything. So for now, that's it from Kevin. Thank you, and see you guys after this. Wow, there was a very energetic presentation from Kevin. Now I cannot stop moving because he's been asking us to keep on moving, 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 and moving. So, Kevin, thank you very much for joining us today. It was a very great honor to have you. So, ladies and gentlemen, we are moving on to our next session, which is our next speaker is the co-founder of Malaysia's first and leading digital health platform that offers telehealth consultation, online pharmacy, medication delivery, health content, as well as doctors and specialist booking. So doctoronCall.com.my offers a data-driven employee healthcare program focusing on continuous and preventive care. After spending years of working and understanding how the digital revolution disrupts various industries, it was time to solve some of the biggest challenges in the healthcare space through digital innovation. So guys, without further ado, I present to you Hazwan Najib.
Thank you, June, for the nice introduction. I'm very honored to be here today. My name is Hazwan, and I'm the co-founder of Doctor on Call. My partner and I started Doctor on Call about 4 years ago, starting with a virtual consultation and doing medication delivery. But the main reason why we started Doctor on Call, there are three. The first one is as I was working I spent about 10 years in the consulting industry. Right, I was thinking, why can't it? How do I get a good medical advice from qualified doctor if I can't make my way to the clinic? Right, there's all sorts of reasons why you can't make your way to the clinic. You name it. Right, my wife is outstationed for 3 weeks. I have to take care of 3 kids. I'm too busy to leave. I can only go see doctor next week. By the time I finish work, the clinic is closed, and all sorts of reasons that I find it inconvenient to go to the clinic, right? And secondly, we live in a world, our life revolves around technology. Banks have literally moved into our smartphone. Phone company is literally living in our smartphones. If you think about it, the movie theater, the restaurants have taken a real estate in our smartphones too. What about my health needs, right? Why can't it be more convenient for me to take care of my health? And thirdly, spending 10, 11 years in consulting large companies like banks, telcos, conglomerates, and also utility companies, every single one of my clients were whinging about healthcare cost, how it's growing very fast year on year. And one of my clients even spent almost R1 billion a year on healthcare alone. What is going on, right? And remember, I was an outsider to the healthcare industry. I don't know why as well, right? So with all these reasons, and we started doing some studies and started Doctor on Call to empower healthcare with digital. Okay, so I believe a large audience that we have today are from employers or from the companies, right? And this, what you see here, is not you're not unfamiliar with, right? You've seen news, you've seen the headlines, how the insurance premiums are going up, how healthcare costs is going up fast, right? And this is just facts, right? And recently, the healthcare inflation was released, and you know that Malaysia is at 13.6%. And how does it compare to normal inflation, right? So our Malaysian inflation is growing at 2.4%, and the healthcare itself is growing at 13.6%. And how do we compare? We are essentially have the highest healthcare inflation compared to our peers in the Eastern Hemisphere, right? There's so some people argue that maybe because we have a low cost to begin with, that's why our healthcare cost is so high. But I believe there is a real reason if we peel this off one by one. Right. Okay, so today I would like to share with you, take you through a journey that I believe can potentially open up our mind and see what is the root cause, right? Because depends on who do you talk to, who do you ask. Many people blame it on the insurers, many blame it on the hospitals, doctors, many blame it on the drug companies for making our healthcare costs so high. All right, but let's peel the onion one by one, right? Let's look at the growth of healthcare costs. Like from a very analytical point of view, all right? There's only two reasons, right? Is it because our healthcare cost is getting more expensive? Or is it because there are more people? So that one is price, the more people just needs healthcare. That's quantity, right? So is it the doctor's fee? Is it drugs? Is it the drug prices? Is it the treatment that's getting more expensive? And how about the other end, right? Is it because we have more people? Yes, we do have more people today than we have 10 years ago, but is it driving the cost? And is it ultimately, is it because people are getting more sick, right? So today I'll spend a few minutes with you, try to share with you some data points, because it's easier to peel this off one by one when you back it with data. So, first question, is it the doctor's fee? I don't think so. And I think this is not news for many people in the medical community, that we have the lowest doctor's consult fee in the region, or maybe in the world, right? Our GP charges between 15 to 35 ringgit, and according to Malaysia Medical Association, it hasn't changed in the last 27, 28 years. All right, imagine in Cambodia, it costs like 3 times as much to see a general practitioner versus Malaysia. So is it the doctor's fee that's driving this car? I don't think so, right? And how about the other factor? How about the drug prices? Right. This study compared the drug prices across 50 countries. We are the 48th cheapest country in the world in terms of buying drugs, right? We are actually about close to 100% lower than the median, right? And yes, so there is a price increase year on year, but is it really driving the hike of the healthcare cost? We don't know. And if you think about it, if you think about the doctor's fee, all right, do you think it's fair for someone who spent their entire lives studying and learning to save lives and are compensated that way, right? So this is the point where I think something needs to change in healthcare. Right? We need to look at how we control the cost, or how we make it more sustainable. Cutting the consult fees, or slashing the drug prices, and may not be the real answer to this problem, right? Let's look at other factors, right? What I mentioned is, do we have more people that need healthcare today than it was 10 years ago? Right. Okay, this is a population pyramid chart for Malaysia. 10 years ago, this is a nice curve. Majority of the people are below the age of 30, right? Fast forward 2015, 2020. Look at how it's the curve is fattening, right? It grows as fast as my tummy, right? Yeah, so you can see there are more people who are getting older, and we are contributing to that numbers, right? Everyone in this room. And see, fast forward to 2040. By 2040, this is how it looks like. Obviously, people are, there are more older people by then, and in 20 years' time, I don't think this is something that we can ignore. I know it's a long time, but we are the one who's going to be in our 50s and 60s by 2040, and that's when we need healthcare the most, right? So we need to see more doctors and need to take care of our health better, right? And we are the one who will be clogging the system if we don't fix this. And just another perspective, right? By 2050, more than 50% of Malaysians will be above the age of 40, right? We are now about 33%. By 2050, more than half of us will be above the age of 40. What does that mean? Right? Some people ask me when I first started Dr. On Call, like, why do you start Dr. On Call? I don't find it so difficult to get healthcare here. I can just go down to the clinic down the road, or I can just make a call, book an appointment with my specialist. I can get the appointment next day. But we shouldn't take that for granted, right? Think about it. Think about the US, right? Everyone probably have heard that, the US healthcare system is in a bit of a mess, right? Their COVID treatment is not even free and have to be taken out of your insurance, and it can cost up to millions, right? And it takes weeks to see the specialist. And if you've seen in the movies or shows how insurance is a big deal, and they won't they will reject you from the hospital if you're not insured. That's the United States. But why are they in that mess in the first place as a so-called the first world country or the richest country in the world, right? And if you think about it, one of the major factors is because they are already in the year 2040 for Malaysia. 47% of the Americans are above the age of 40, and they have bigger needs in terms of healthcare, and the system that they have may not be able to cope with it. And for us, if we don't fix this today, if we don't look that far ahead, we will be in that mess too. And the people who will suffer the most are not our children or grandchildren, it will be us. Because I believe everyone in the audience today, by 2050, we will be in our 60s, 70s, and 80s, right? And we are the one who needs to see doctors the most. And by then, it probably won't be the next day to see your specialist. It'll probably 3-4 weeks wait, or even longer, right? So that's why, if we don't, as an employer or someone who can shape the landscape for healthcare today, we should work together to make sure that healthcare programs are not heading down towards that mess. Recently, the Ministry of Health released National Health and Mobility Survey for 2019, the latest version. All right, there's a staggering facts of 1 in 5 of adult Malaysians are diabetic. 1 in 3 of adult Malaysians have hypertension. That's 6.4 million people. But I think those numbers has been shared over and over again. But what is the most worrying is actually that 7 out of 10 Malaysians in their 30s have no idea that they are diabetic, right? We used to think that diabetes is a disease of our parents, our grandparents, right? We are now in our 30s. We don't even think about it. But numbers, if you see, they don't even realize it. What's going on, right? And then these people are the 30s are the ones going to, as an employer, you will be in your organization for the next 20 years, right? If they're not aware now, living with diabetics for years, obviously their health will deteriorate and need bigger healthcare needs by the time they hit 40. Let's look at hypertension. Right. So, again, only half are aware that they have the disease, right? And we can't have this, the Malaysian way of maybe no news is good news. Yes, sometimes it works, but then not in this manner, right? This no news is not good news, right? We are going down the wrong path, right? And as an employer or companies or insurers, we now we are wondering why people are getting more sickly. Most of the time, they're not diagnosed with hypertension. They keep getting sick and going to the clinics over and over again, and without actually getting the proper treatment for it. What they're getting is probably something to treat their symptoms, right? And right now, most of the companies know that the moment someone is diagnosed with hypertension or diabetes, their healthcare costs, like they would spend twice as much and more than twice as much as their average counterpart, right? Like people with diabetes would spend 2.5 times more than the average people. And this is some numbers that we've gotten from our, some of our corporate clients, right? This is what we see now, but there's a huge cost that's coming throughout the journey in the next 10 years, right? So my point is, what actually went wrong with our healthcare? With our healthcare cost, all right? Why do we, if we know all these problems, why can't we fix it, right? What went wrong, right? So let me take you through a typical life cycle of a patient, right? So that maybe we can understand this better of what's going on, right? Is it because we're spending too little on healthcare, or is it because we just have this underlying problem that we couldn't see, right? So look at this gentleman, and for namesake, it's going to be Zainal. He's 39 years old. He's been diagnosed with hypertension. Okay, all right. And maybe the first reaction, if you're the insurer or the payer, would be like, alamak, it's his hypertension, now he's going to be spending more on healthcare costs, right? But let's look whether that actually matters, right? So once he's diagnosed with hypertension, he's prescribed to take daily medication, okay? And I believe the medication is not that expensive, he can take it daily, right? What happens next? Then he starts his new hypertension life, goes to the clinic every month to refill his medication, and then, this is not uncommon, right? Sometimes he forgets his medication, or he runs out of medication, and it takes him days or weeks to go back to the clinic to get that medication, right? And this may cause issue with medication compliance, right? And then he's probably good with his checkup, right? He sees the doctor every 3 to 6 months for mandatory checkup, right? Everything probably looks okay, right? But in between his checkup, right, he probably has regular headache, and typically, when he has headache or fever, he just visits any clinic and take meds to treat his condition, right? But the point is, if he goes to any clinics, right, the doctors may not have his full history of what's going on, and maybe he's been given medication to treat his condition, and this is when he has unmonitored symptoms, right? What happens next? Zainal is a very hardworking employee, right? He typically works late, right? He has no time to exercise, unhealthy lifestyle, like what Kevin just mentioned in the previous session, right? And I'm guilty for this too, right? And I think majority of us are hardworking and have really deprioritized some of these basic things like exercising. So when he's clocking at 8 in the morning, finished up at 10, what's going on? Obviously, he would be subject to unhealthy diet, right? His meals potentially consists of mamak food for breakfast, lunch, and dinner. All right, and he goes through this cycle maybe for the next 10 years, and unfortunately, this is what happened, right? He has very high likelihood that he will get stroke, right? One day he just realized that his numbness in his face is diagnosed with stroke, and this story of stroke is also another thing that is not uncommon. We've known someone who's gone through this and is diagnosed with this. And it's become common stories that we've heard and then know nothing about what to do, right? So this is a typical life cycle, and this is where maybe the whole industry went wrong, right? No one is making sure that Zainal is on track. And if you think about it, The last thing, as an employee, we want to do is, once he is diagnosed with hypertension, the last thing we want to do is whinging about how his cost on a monthly basis is going to go up, right? Because first he has diagnosis, doctor's visit, medications, lab screening, all that come up to, when my first calculation was potentially on average about 237 ringgit a month, and this is on the lower end, right? Over the next 10 years, he'll be spending about 29,400 ringgit. Doesn't seem so bad for a large company who are actually providing healthcare to their employees, right? If he sticks to this, right? But the problem is, right, if he goes down on this trajectory, right, and get down with stroke, right, this year, the cost of stroke hospitalization is about 31,000, right? And that's this year. But think about Zainal today. And in 10 years' time, if he's down with this, it won't be 31,000 ringgit anymore, right? Remember the healthcare inflation of 13% year on year? It'd be 104,000 ringgit. Are we ready as a healthcare payer or employer to pay this amount, right? And is it sustainable? And if 1 in 3 Malaysians are going down this path, right, we are looking at very soon, in 5 to 10 years' time, we are going to be in this deep trouble. Let's see what we can change for Zainal, right? How can this be different, right? Same situation, he's 39 years old, he's been diagnosed with hypertension, and he's prescribed to take medication daily, right? We live in a world of technology. He's supposed to visit his doctor on a quarterly basis. He must receive a reminder about it over and over again so that he has no missing appointment. And he's given a device or blood pressure monitor to monitor his vitals regularly. This is something that's a bit baffling for me. When I first working with some of the employers, asking, why don't you give a blood pressure monitor to the employee who has high risk of hypertension or certain age or people with hypertension? Say, okay, the common answers that you get is, it's not covered, it's exclusion, right? But that's not the point, right? We tell our employees every day that what gets measured gets done, right? But without a device or even to measure this, how do we expect Zainal to control his blood pressure, right? And remember, Zainal is hardworking and busy employees, right? He's busy, so think what if he should receive reminders on this medication regularly. All right, he needs to take it, and before it runs out, he needs a reminder that he needs to refill it, right? And this is not future technology. This technology is available today, right? And it should be enabled for every single one of your employees, right? And he checks up with doctors. He should check up with doctors at least a month. But remember, he was busy. He may not have time, so he can have virtual consult now with the doctors. Right? When he's too busy, his doctor will give him a call, right? Rain or shine, a doctor or someone will check on you, on how you're doing, how's your blood pressure, are you taking your medication regularly, do you have any other complications, right? This needs to be part of his life cycle, right? And it doesn't have to be inconvenient. It's all can be enabled by technology. Think about, so whenever he feels unwell, like in the previous case, he would just stop by any clinics or pharmacies, get medication and treat his conditions, right? But here, when he feels unwell, he should be given an extra attention by his doctor, in person or virtually, right? Remember, in the world, in this current connected world, there's no reason why you can't get an on-demand and immediate advice from a doctor or from a healthcare professional, right? And no delays, right? If required, his doctor can even escalate his case to a specialist virtually or in person, right? In the current situation, when the GPs give a referral to a patient, like it takes time for them to make booking, and then it may have missed appointment. It takes weeks to see an expert, right? And in this manner, right, it needs to be a closed loop case escalation where Zainal can get his expert opinion early before it's too late. All right. And this is potentially the hardest, right, when it comes to this. The hardest when it comes to prevention, right? Clear health outcomes, and it must be rewarding, right? Imagine if he can have his clear health goal setting and get rewarded for achieving it. I know many companies are, many large companies are rewarding us, giving some sort of reward for their employees to be healthy, but in many times, a lot of times, it is based on vanity measures, right? Weight loss, which is important, right? But there must be, for someone with hypertension, there must be a clear goal when it comes to whether he developed new conditions, whether he developed new illness, whether his blood pressure is controlled, and whether he has, all these clinical outcomes must be real. And his doctors, imagine in a world that his doctors gets rewarded too, right? So that drives both, the patient and the doctors to really make sure that Zainal, at the end of the day, right, he lives a safer, healthier, and happier lives, right? So this is what we envision that needs to happen in the healthcare space, and we are doing parts of it today, right? And this is only possible now because we live in a world of connectivity and technology. All right. So at Dr. Ongkor, our vision is to really bring health back into the healthcare, right? So we are not a big fan of short-term, medical cost-cutting, short-term measures of controlling the drugs cost, or the type of medications that someone take. There should be a clear focus on health outcomes, right? Long-term sustainability, because that cost matters in 10 years' time, not now, right? In the current world, we have intermittent care, lack of continuity, and if you think about it, only 25% of people today goes to the same clinic for their condition. Many, like the 75%, goes to any clinic and any doctors. And as you know, when you do this, the doctor doesn't have a full view of your medical history, and and if you think across pharmacies, doctors, hospitals, right, the only common denominator is the patient, right? So we need to get this 360-degree view of a patient and put that information back into the patient's hand, right? So that is like you can use it anywhere you go, right? Even when you're on vacation somewhere, the doctor will have a full view of your history. And no more delays in seeing doctors, right? We must have, in the current world, everything. We must make it available on demand, right? Connected health. There's no reason for us not to enable our employees or ourselves to do this. And think about the uncontrolled conditions that Zainal has, right? We need to spot all these red flags early and prevent, right? This is the whole thing about preventive care, right? Before he gets hospitalized, before it gets too late, right? And the many companies launch healthcare program in the dark without clear ROI, right? I mean, many companies launch, say, wellness program like Zumbas and yogas and Biggest Loser program. But what is more important is it needs to be calculated, right? This epidemic is not, it's not just a vanity epidemic, right? There's a whole healthcare outcomes that needs tagged to it, and I believe in the future world of technology and connectivity, right, we can all enable this for our employees, and this is really to prevent what the kind of problems and trouble that we'll get in 20 years, 30 years time as an employer or even ourselves. All right, with that, I end my presentation today, and I believe we will get to the question and answers.
All right, thank you. Thank you so much, Hazwan, for the presentation just now. And I would like to give kudos to you and your team that you come up with this idea of bringing healthcare closer to the people and adapting to the IR 4.0, where technology is vital nowadays. So it's a very good initiative by you and the company. to bring people closer to the healthcare system. Maybe like nowadays people are very scared to go to the doctor sometimes, but now with having the technology on your hands, it makes them like there's nothing to be afraid of, and they're always there to help you. So while we are waiting for the questions to come in from the audience, remember you can always post your question on Facebook, YouTube, or even if you are participants of WebEx, you can always chat with us and post your questions there. So my question to Hazwan. So since you started this initiative, what are the biggest challenge that you might have experienced on Doctor on Call? Yeah.
Okay, the very first challenge would be the adoption and the trust in the system, right? We were the first one to introduce a platform. We need to gain trust of doctors and the patients and that's the hardest. It took us a while to start slowly introducing everyone on the needs for telehealth. We realized that 80% of the people start their healthcare search or healthcare journey online. And we want to make sure that we are available for them whenever they do that, so that they don't go and start Googling, self-medicating, and those are the main problems that we want to solve initially as well. So that's when we started to introduce our health content, blogs, forum Q&A, because a lot of people like to ask health questions, and there's some all sorts of questions that many of us maybe here would think is common sense, but to the 70% of Malaysians out there, it's something that they have trouble understanding, right? So we want to close that health literacy gap.
All right, that's a very interesting answer from Hazwan. So, I think I can agree on that. Where actually making people to familiarize with the technology is something very hard to do, because since you are the first one to actually introduce this. So we have questions from the audience from Wei Kiat. How common is an online consultation made available to public without present in person in the clinics? So is it a rising trend? So what do you think about it, Hazwan?
It is definitely a rising trend, no doubt. We have started about 4 years ago. It was a slow start, but as I can see, it's quite natural for people to be starting the healthcare journey online, Googling, right? And in the traditional setting, there's no halfway point between Googling and going to the clinic. And as I mentioned earlier, going to the clinic is probably not the easiest thing to do for many people, right? There's all sorts of reasons. So Dr. On Call comes in between and introduce that, okay, what if I have this concern, rather than asking friends and families and unqualified, unsolicited advice, right? Might as well you talk to qualified doctors and get your initial concern addressed and see whether there's a need for you to go into the clinics or hospital. And some of the common ones can be addressed online. And recently, MMC has come up with the guidelines to allow a lot of follow-ups and patients to be done by doctors and specialists online. And there was about 10 times spike in terms of the use of telehealth over the MCO and COVID-19 period. And that's a clear trend, and because of that, people are saying, okay, people are starting to try the telehealth, and many of them find it quite convenient to just start the healthcare journey online before they actually make a decision to go in person.
All right, so I can totally relate to the situation where sometimes if we feel we like to self-diagnose, right? So we just go on Google. Sometimes we just have a rash, suddenly you come out like diagnosed, but then is it even true? But Dr. On Call is here to always help you, to always there will be always doctor to help you on the consultation part. So we have another question from Tsung. It is interesting you are comparing the US and Malaysia, especially with this age issue. The concern with seeking healthcare while older will be cost as well. The Malaysia is different from the US because it's a two-tiered health system. If Dr. On Call is trying to reach an older population, are you guys considering working with the Ministry of Health to accept older patients? who will typically seek KKM clinics as well. So yeah, it's a very
Based on thank you, Chung. Based on our interaction with the ministries and also a few state government, there are a lot of older patients out there who seek treatment in Klinik Kesihatan and of KKM. And I think last year's KKM introduced a concept of virtual clinic. Right, so I think KKM is moving in the right direction in terms of allowing these patients to connect with their doctors virtually. And what we see is understand that some of the older population, they have challenge with technology. In our working with, we work with one of the state government for the B40 program, which many of them are in the older population, right? So we even make it convenient for them to reach out to us through a hotline number where we can patch up a doctor to speak to them, right?
All right, thank you, Song, for the question just now. So yeah, I think Dr. Ankol is collaborating with the Ministry of Health a lot in terms of introducing this telehealth initiative. So we have another question from Wei Kiat. Oh, sorry, this is we already answered this part. Okay, we have a question from Siti. May I know if Dr. Ankol will expand to the neighboring countries soon? Still understand that this covers outpatient only. So how about inpatients?
Okay. Thank you, Siti. Interesting questions. Inshallah, we will expand to other countries. But the idea is, if you remember, there was a news come out last year that Malaysia healthcare or doctors are ranked among the best in the world. And I think no one would dispute that. Right now, we are receiving also quite a number of patients who are seeking advice from our doctors from other countries. And in terms of our expansion to other countries, we will see in terms of model how we can help serve our neighbors from Indonesia, for instance, if they need to speak to doctors from here, or they need some medication that is not immediately available from Indonesia. Yes, we have that in our plan. We are still doing some groundwork in terms of expansion. Does this cover outpatient only? It's outpatient, and we just onboarded a group of specialists, and they are using this to follow up with their their follow-up patients, or patients who just discharged from hospital and they need to do follow-up. They can use telehealth platform for this purpose, right? And in terms of covers, different employers or insurers have different coverage for outpatient or inpatient. Yeah.
Okay, thank you, Siti, for the question. We still have more questions from the audience. You can keep on sharing your question to Hazwan. So, a question from Eileen. Is it possible for you to show no symptoms if you have no diabetes? Okay, what do you think, Hazwan?
I think I didn't make myself clear. I'm not a medical doctor, and I don't think I'm qualified to answer this question, Elaine. But maybe you drop your contacts, and I'll get one of the doctors to help you answer these questions.
All right, I think Eileen, you know where to go. It's droncall.com.my. Yes. You will get a direct consultation to the doctors. Okay, we have another question from Lukesh. How long does it take to do the assessment for a large corporate?
Okay. There's various programs that we have. Depends on the size of the companies. Typically, we come in. We can do a basic health risk assessment for a small to medium-sized company in terms of understanding their population. But for large companies, we can come in. Takes probably like 2 to 3 weeks to gather the data from your claims or your medical records data in terms of understanding the population and setting up that baseline for to shape the proper healthcare programs for them. And we work with a network of doctors, specialists, and medical experts to do this.
Okay, I think we have more questions. So it's from Nor. May I know who are the doctors at Dr. On-Call? So personally, I'm very curious as well. Where do you get your doctors? I mean, do they come voluntarily or anything?
Yeah. We don't hire doctors directly. Many of the doctors who work with us actually do it as a part-time or semi-permanent. They use this as a channel, so they can come from private practice or private hospitals, and then they do it during their available time, right? And we are now moving to a model where a lot of clinics and doctors out there can actually set up their own practice online. They can come on board and like set up whichever clinic you're from, and then like you offer that service to your customers. Right, so we have various models for this.
So basically, the idea is like virtual clinics or hospital, is it right? Yeah. So, yeah. Okay. The next question. Ooh, another question from Lukesh. How to stay young like you, Hazwan? Tell me.
Okay, this is getting uncomfortable, but I don't know. All right, maybe some will just don't look old.
Okay,
or maybe I should put my pictures from 10 years ago.
I think I know the answer to it. You know where? Where do you get the answer? It's doctoruncall.com.my. I believe
Thank
they
you,
have
Jude.
their own doctors there. They will give you a consultation on how to stay young. Okay. So do you have more questions from the audience? Okay. I think that's it from the audience. So Hazwan, do you have any final words for the audience that are watching you today, and maybe you can share how do they can actually go to seek consultation from Dr. On-Call? Is there any apps or websites? Yeah.
Okay. Thank you, Lukesh. We provide our services, all the services that you mentioned, from online consultations, booking, medication delivery on droncall.com.my. You can go there. And in terms of our corporate program, you can reach out to us at corporate@droncall.com.my, and then we will engage with you. And I believe my whole presentation today is a plea to the industry, right? We always see this as a short-term thing, right? When we started Dr. On-Call, it's a digital health platform. Yes, it provides virtual consultation, medication delivery, but that's just a starting point, right? The longer I spend time in healthcare, the more things I discover, and I think the way our trajectory in terms of healthcare spending and healthcare state of our health now is not sustainable for long term, and we should work together as an industry, from regulators, employers, to see how we can actually make a difference and change the way we chart our healthcare journey forward.
Alright, thank you so much, Hazwan, for the sharing and also for the Q&A session just now. So I hope Hazwan will continue to inspire all young minds out there to keep on innovating, especially in this new norm. So thank you so much again, Hazwan. And for you guys out there, stay tuned because we have more session after this, and see you guys later. Bye-bye. Thank you once again, Hazwan, for the sharing on droncall.com.my just now. So I think you guys know where to go after this. No need to Google about your symptoms or anything. Just go straight to droncall.com.my. Okay, ladies and gentlemen, most of us are currently coping with the transition between working from home and going back to office. So I think most of you now are actually in the office. So our next speaker will share with us how employers and employees can work effectively and efficiently in a post-MCO working environment. So Derek To is the founder and CEO of warpjobs.com. He has been a speaker at a debate moderated by BBC World News. So now Derek wants to build a future of work to help the job seekers out there to find the job that they will love. So ladies and gentlemen, without further ado, Derek To.
Oh, hi, hello everyone. I'm Derek. I'm the founder of Warp, and so I know we are actually going through like a very strange time right now. I think we can all agree, because just a couple of months ago, due to the pandemic, a lot of companies were actually forced to kind of make everyone work from home pretty much. So working from home has actually been, or remote working has actually been like a concept that has existed for a while now, but obviously it's not really been adopted before, because I suppose in most cases there wasn't a strong need to do that, right? So companies therefore, pretty much opted for working in the office. A small group of companies allow people to kind of work remotely from home, and that's pretty much it. But because of what happened a few months ago, everyone was forced to kind of figure it out. So that was the kind of the incentive for companies to figure it out. And right now you could say that most people are still adjusting to it, right? So we're kind of in between, in the sense of, there are some companies that have opted to continue like fully remote. Many have gone into the office, but most are kind of in between, right? Like kind of like in hybrid mode. So before I kind of go into detail about some of the challenges that you face, because I think right now there are a lot of problems that arise from having to kind of adjust to this environment, not just for employees, but also for employers. Give a bit of context as to kind of who I am and what I do. So for those of you who haven't heard of WALK before, we are the leading youth career platform in Malaysia. We're the first one to just focus on specializing in professional youth. And internally, we have a mission, right, to be an inspiration to other companies, whether they're big or small, how to create like a positive, high-performance workplace. So what I mean by that is, obviously, as a company, as a business, we want a high-performance workplace. That's very obvious. But we told ourselves that we don't want to do it in a way that it's like we're a horrible place to work in. Like we want a culture that's very positive. People are inspired rather than forced to do things. People are motivated through positivity rather than through fear. So we want to kind of put these two things together when we started the company. On top of the fact that we are obviously a job platform ourselves. So we actually launched about 5 years ago. For those of you who don't know, that's a picture of me alone by myself. Zero revenue, I was the only employee. We built a website. When I say we, I mean me, at the time. It cost 6,500 ringgit, the website. And the platform, if you've ever been on if you ever downloaded our app or been to our website, you see it's very different from a typical job platform. So it was there were many challenges trying to go into the market, but yet today, we've had revenues of like over 8 digits already. So I won't go into the exact number, but I'm just trying to say that we've actually achieved a lot of success, in the last 5 years, right? Just specializing in professional juniors. So some stats about internal talent. Now this is not so as a platform. Obviously, we have a very large database. We have like about almost 500,000 users right now, and lots of employees that use us, but just internally, right? So we have about 50 employees, full-timers, excluding interns. 70% of them join as fresh graduates, and the average age of the team is about 28 years old, and 60% of the leadership team actually comprise of women. So, and this is all completely merit-based. We promote people based on merit, and this is how the team currently looks like right now. So because we operate in the technology industry, so a lot of the products that we create is just directly, the quality of the talent has a direct relationship between how we do as a company, right? The quality and performance of talent. So therefore, it's like a number one priority for us. So I'm just giving some context in the sense of as a technology company, we want to do well, right? We want our team to be productive. At the same time, we want them to be positively motivated to do what they do, right? Without going through all the stress, without going through unnecessary stress. At the same time, because we are a job portal, we are a job platform, we also talk directly to a lot of employers, so we know what are the challenges that people are facing, and also employees, what challenges they are facing. And what I'm about to share today is based not just on theory, but theory that's been applied, applied internally within our company, and also applied from what I know from other different companies right here in Malaysia right now. So obviously we care a lot about how engaged our own employees are. We send out this like anonymous survey. Again, this gives context as to why I can share this, and there's some relevance there. So we did this anonymous survey internally within our company. So the engagement score was 7.7 over 10, which is very good for like a technology company that's obviously typically quite a challenging or stressful environment. But then we did it again earlier this year, and it's at 8.7. So you can see that we are actually doing even better. We continue to do better. At the same time, our company is actually growing. So we know it's possible, right? Build a successful business, at the same time have a really positive culture. So I'm going to share with you some of the things that we've learned recently due to the fact that everyone is now forced to kind of figure out how to work, So there are two types of working styles in general. Obviously, there's office-based work and there's remote work. So like I said in the beginning, everyone knows what office-based work is. You know how to operate in the office. We've been doing it for decades. So that I won't really go into detail how to work in the office. You already know how to do that. The part that is new to a lot of people is the remote work part. How do I be successful while I'm working remotely, at the same time kind of manage the challenges that automatically occur. And now, especially when many companies are in between, you are transitioning from working remotely to going back to the office, and many companies have adopted kind of like a 50-50 approach. Some teams rotate, as I understand, maybe certain teams come in one week, another team goes in another week, so it's 50-50 to avoid contact. Some teams have opted for, like you all decide yourself, right? Some companies have said, okay, like if you think some days you want to work remotely, some days you want to come in, it's okay, because we already figured out how to work remotely. So that's kind of hybrid. Now, so what are the problems? Well, the problems is two, actually. First is how to be productive and how to be seen as productive, and I'll explain the reason why these are problems. So we all know the challenges of working remotely. I'm going to focus a bit more on working remotely first. So how to be productive working remotely? Well, in the office, you have everything, right? You have your desk, you have your colleagues, you have all your rooms, and all the stuff is there. And you're very, you already know what you need to do. You can talk to people very easily. And now suddenly when you're at home, this thing completely changes. Now suddenly you're not around colleagues. It's a bit more difficult to talk to people, and you're supposed to be productive, right? On top of the challenges that you're facing at home. You have like some people have kids, or like they live with family, or they don't have a proper workspace. It's all very challenging. The second part is how to be seen as productive. So even though if you are actually productive, if you're not seen as productive, that actually causes some problems. And I'll explain why, right? So if you look at this kind of simple thing that I put up here, very simplistic. So on one axis, you see either unproductive, someone's actually unproductive, and someone is very productive, and the other is someone is seen as unproductive, with someone that is actually seen as productive. So I'm going to talk about the extremes first. So if you're actually seen as productive, and you're also productive, you're productive and you're seen as productive, obviously you're going to be a star. Right, the company loves you, you do well, you're also happy, you probably grow. On the other extreme, if you are unproductive and you're seen as unproductive, that's a really bad place to be in right now. So I would suggest you try to change something sooner, right? If you're unproductive and you're seen as productive, that's kind of like a danger area to be in right now. Now let's look at this part here. If you are actually unproductive, but you're seen as productive. Some people do this really well. They carry themselves very well. People think they're busy. People think they're doing well. Now, in the short term, you're actually going to be okay. So I put stagnant because obviously your results of your work won't help you grow. So you can't be stagnant. But the long term, right, you can't be found out, and you might move down here. The greatest frustration is for people in this group here, right? You're actually productive, but you're seen as unproductive. You're going to have some real trust issues. So, and you don't want to be there. So let's try to focus on that. So first, I'm going to talk about how to be productive, right, in a remote working environment. In WOB, and I suggest this, I keep on echoing this to a lot of companies, we do something called a daily morning huddle. What that means is like every team lead, every manager has like a quick catch up with their entire team over video every morning, right? And the main reason we do that is not just in terms of keeping people accountable, but it is to signal to everyone. Imagine you're working from home, is to signal to everyone that the workday has started, right? You're all together, and it doesn't have to take long, 10, 15 minutes. Just say, hey, what are you going to be doing today? Now, in the office environment, right, it's very easy to know when the workday has started. You could be like in the car, you might be half asleep, you could be in the MRT, doesn't matter what it is. But as soon as you walk into the office, right, the workday has started. But this is not the case when you're at home. You need something to signal to everyone the workday has started. So a daily morning huddle is very effective. And we asked 3 main questions, right? The team asked me 3 main questions in the huddle. Number 1, what did you complete yesterday? Number 2, what prevented you from completing any task yesterday? And number 3, what you complete today. That's it. Just a quick catch up, sometimes take 5-10 minutes, just talk about what you did yesterday, what prevented you, and what you complete today. And for the rest of the day, no one will bother you, unless you need to talk to someone, right? And you can just focus on your work. So those 3 questions asked everyone. Now, we have this framework called the 3 A's of remote working in WOB. So this helps everyone kind of build trust and know that people are actually working. So we don't start questioning each other whether people are working or not. So what are the 3 ways of, 3 A's of remote working? The first one is being active. So we came up with this because before MCO, WOB has always allowed people to work remotely. But some of the challenges with working remotely is people misunderstand what it means to be remote working. So I have situations where someone says, oh, I need to work remotely tomorrow, right? And then and then on the next day when they say they're working remotely, if you try to contact them, try to talk to them, and say, oh, actually I'm at the bank, but I'm still replying to messages, or actually I'm at the post office, I'm trying to run a personal errand, but I'm still contactable. You can talk to me, I'll still reply, I'll still be working, But what I'm trying to get across to everyone, that's not working, right? Because you're contactable, because you can answer questions, you can work out problems together. You're not actually working because you're like running personal errands. Working, being active to us, means that you're literally sitting, imagining you're in the office, except you're not. You're sitting in front of your laptop doing your work, as usual, except you're not in the office environment, you're at home. So just to help everyone kind of understand that, however you are working in the office, just replicate it as though you're working at home, and that's it. And that's what being active actually means. So a lot of people misunderstand like remote working as I can kind of do my thing, as long as I'm replying to messages, I'm working. No, it's not. That doesn't mean you're working. So being active means being active, actually working. Number two is being accessible, right? So what does it mean be accessible? That means if someone needs to contact you, you can actually be contacted for discussion. So in an office environment, if I have a problem I need solving, right, and I need to talk to someone in another team, within my team, doesn't matter, I can just walk up to their desk, I can have a quick conversation, done, and then I go back and do my work. That's why it's very efficient. Or I can knock in the office or whatever it is. But in a remote working environment, because we can't see each other, so I might have to call someone very quickly. But if I'm calling someone very quickly and I can't get hold of them once, and I can't get hold of them twice, I can't get hold of them 3 times, what do you think happens, right? Trust issues, right? So are you actually working? And they actually kind of help and actually holds people back as a team from doing their work. So the second rule for us is like being accessible, meaning that if someone reaches out to you, you have to be able to get on a call with them like immediately, like as though you're sitting on your desk. Being accountable basically means that everything that you do is recorded, is recordable, has some kind of like a trail where someone can see if they want to review a work that is actually there. So those 3 things is the framework of how we operate remote, and we repeat it constantly in the company. Sometimes as a learning process, people don't really understand what it means. But just by following these three things, we know that everyone is being productive, and we don't have to worry, right? There are no trust issues. Everyone can focus on their work and not try to be seen as productive. Now, your company so may or may not obviously practice something like this. So regardless of your employer, I would suggest that everyone kind of practice this yourself to build trust, right? So even if your employer doesn't impose this, just remember the 3 A's as you're working. This is actually very important. One other thing I'll say is video call is definitely better than the phone call, 100%. Because when you're in the office, you can see each other, you feed off each other's energy. When you're working remotely at home, it can get a bit lonely. I think sometimes it's very hard. After a while, you get a bit tired, you don't see your colleagues and stuff. So the best way to recreate that is, even though you think a phone call is faster, do it over video, right? Even if it's 1 minute. This is very obvious when you set goals and KPIs for everyone. Make sure that's result-based and not activity or time-based. It's very challenging to have in a remote working environment to set activities or set goals based on time due to the fact that people are not working on things together anymore. So the best way to build trust and to keep everyone accountable productive is to set a result-based goal. So I would suggest everyone to kind of respect your office hours. I'm all talking about all this to kind of help everyone become productive. So what I mean by respect your office hours? Number one is, let's say if you're working from 9 to 6 or 9 to 5, whatever your working hours are. During your working hours, you are working. You are actually working, even though you're actually at home. And one of the things to help you overcome that barrier is not just yourself, even within your family, you have to explain to people that you are actually working. I've heard stories of, because most people still live with their families, like parents will knock on their doors and say, hey, can you help fetch me to this place? Or hey, can you help me do this and that? Because you're at home, right? So they think that they can just talk to you, but actually you are in front of your laptop, you're actually doing work, and you might be talking to colleagues, or you're trying to rush a report out, whatever it is. You explain to people who live in your home, from 9 to 5, I'm actually working. It's kind of like I'm in an office. So as much as possible, unless it's super urgent, like maybe give me my space. Explain to everyone. Avoid distractions. I'll tell everyone, avoid sitting in front of the TV or sitting in the open where it's very easy to distract you. I know it's not a luxury a lot of people can have. You might not have like a separate room, but try to do that if you can. And because you are probably still going to be less productive than in the office, I typically recommend to people to try to make up for it with the saved time that you save from commuting, right? So that's very important. Your calendar, make sure you follow your calendar. So your calendar is basically your boss. So what I mean by that is every single thing that you do, if you say now it's time to do this, time to do that, you just follow very strictly. Be very disciplined. Now, how to be seen as productive? The first thing I'll say is, nobody knows you're working unless you proactively volunteer that information. This is a remote working environment, right? So if by the time your employer or manager feels the urge to check in on you, it's probably too late already. It means they're wondering, hey, what is this person doing? Let's say the people start thinking like this, you're probably kind of in damage control zone. You are in trust, you're going to have trust problems already. So always over-communicate. Right? Always volunteer proactively, take initiative, communicate what you're doing, ask questions. Don't just wait for people to come to you. There are lots of people out there, I believe even in the office, right? There's this, I know some people believe, if I do good work, people will notice me. If I do good work, it doesn't work like that, unfortunately. People don't really know what you're doing until you communicate. So it's going to be even worse now that people can't see you and you're actually at home, right? So over-communicate. So some ideas how you can over-communicate is you can schedule regular FaceTime, right? So you can talk to whoever your manager regularly. One thing you could kind of try to ask them is like, so I want to think about this. In the office, I can see you can see me. It's very easy for everyone to know everyone's kind of working productive as a team, but it's not the same at home. So you can now ask your manager something like, now that it's harder to have a quick catch up in person, can I schedule a short 10-minute weekly one-on-one catch up with you? That's it. Right, 10 minutes, even though there's no real need, I just want 10 minutes to talk to you about stuff I've been working on. Maybe I have a quick question I can ask you, right? So again, if someone tries to reach out to you repeatedly, but they can't, that creates trust problems. So one other thing I would suggest is, you practice having an open calendar. Because sometimes it's not your fault. You might actually be in a call, be in a meeting, that's why they can't contact you. But it happens repeatedly, people will wonder. So you have an open calendar, people can see exactly what you're doing during the day, and you record all the work that you're doing on, even stuff that you're doing as an individual. Right? Let's say if I'm working on a presentation later today at 4 o'clock, from 4 to 5, I'll block it as doing presentation. Right? So I want to talk about the hybrid or transitioning, right? So working at home, individual work is actually better when you're working from home, and actually collaboration is better when you're working in the office. So I suggest create predictable routines when you're working from home in the office. So let's say Monday is a great time to be in the office. You can all come out as a team. You can start talking. You're collaborating very quickly, and kind of sets the tone for what you're going to do for the rest of the week. And Friday is also, I find, typically a good day to be in the office, because if you're at home, it's so close to the weekend, you might be a bit unproductive. You'll be like, in the Friday mood, I don't really feel like working. So it's actually a good day to kind of bookend the week by having these 2 days in office. And in between Tuesday to Thursday, you can kind of flip when you want to be at home and want to be at office. And I would suggest, obviously, dedicating entire days to either being at home or being in the office, because sometimes if you're kind of 50-50, morning you work from office, afternoon you work from home, a lot of people tend to use that travel time as work time, and actually eats into your productivity. If you're just working in the office, by the way, you commute before the start of the workday, not in the workday. So it actually takes away your time, right? And last and not least, I would suggest, sorry, I just kind of bombarded everyone with a lot of tips. I would suggest that because most companies are very open-minded, very flexible right now, you can negotiate with your employer, because you're getting used to this, right? You're getting used to being at home and now going back to the office and trying to save time doing it. Arrange to see you can negotiate traveling at off-peak hours. Maybe you can start the day super early at 7 and you leave at 4, something like that, right? Negotiate something that works for you, for your working style, and works for your family, and helps you transition, so you save the time for the commute. So this is me. I'm very active on LinkedIn. Obviously, you can check out WOB if you want, but also you can follow me on LinkedIn. And if you have any questions that you can ask, I know there are question time after this, but you can also message me directly after that. Thank you very much.
All right, thank you so much, Derek, for the sharing just now. So I know it's not easy to transition from working from home and finally you have to come back to the office. If previously office is just a blink away from you, because when you open your eyes in the morning, you're already in the office, right? But now we have to travel again, and then it's something very hard to do. So we have a question from the audience. It's from Esther. So with the MCO, where children are around, how to stay active as intermittently there is a need to attend to significant others? So what do you think about this, Derek?
Yeah, so this is a very real thing that can happen, even internally within WOB, because all the schools are closed and we have a lot of parents in the office. It does happen to us as well. So the one thing I would suggest is to be able to openly communicate this with your team, right? Can be your manager, stuff like that. Just say like, oh, look, my child is with me at home. We don't have a big home. And as much as possible, obviously, I'll be focusing on work, but there will be moments where it's very easy to get distracted, right? Like you can't control a 2-year-old or 3-year-old. It's impossible. While you're doing a video call, they might kind of jump on your lap and stuff like that. But I think being open about it with the team is very important. That's number one. And the reason why I want to say that is that you shouldn't feel like it's an entitlement, in the sense where the company should just understand that you're in this situation. I mean, your company wants everyone to be working productively. But if you proactively communicate this and you say, okay, this is a situation, but obviously I will be trying my best to focus. I will try to make up my time, let's say whenever, my child's having a nap or something like that. So that you communicate the steps you're taking in order to kind of balance this out a little bit. And if you can do that, right, so even if, going back to accessible, if you openly communicate this and people are reasonable, right? People are not going to be like, hey, no, you can't do this. If you openly communicate this and people try to reach you and say, oh, sorry, I'm kind of in the middle of something right now, can I get back to you in like 10, 15 minutes? People will be very, very understanding, because we know it's true. Like, this is your situation at home. What shouldn't happen is that because you have this, your kids or whatever, your parents at home that you take care of, when people contact you and ask you for help, that you feel that, hey, you know, I'm in this situation, like you feel entitled to this, I knew I'm in this situation, and you shouldn't be constantly trying to contact me for work, because it's not your colleague's fault, right? For them, they are trying to be productive. It's not their fault. So if they're trying to contact you, I think it's still kind of on you to say that, oh, look, I'm really sorry, I can't get to this immediately, but I will try. And I think that keeps the trust among the team very strong, right? So I hope. So when I say active, basically means that we are trying to be active. It's like a framework. But if you communicate to the team openly, then everyone learns how to work together, and you try to find a way to make up for it later.
Alright, so I think the key here is to communicate with your team, and it's okay to over-communicate. Okay, guys, we have another question from Wong. Not many people would like to be seen as productive. Okay, what is the method of encourage them to tell superior or bosses on what they have done? It feels like there is no trust between us. Employees need to report from time to time on what they have done instead of just showing result at the end. Interesting question.
Yes, I think so. If I'm understanding this correctly, for me, I think it goes back to a bit of the relationship between the employer and employee, or like the manager and the employee, right? Sometimes when I first chat with people, the 3As and how we do like the daily morning huddle, there are some people who respond, who say, oh, that's a great idea, that keeps everyone motivated and moving along. And another group of people will respond, oh, that's micromanaging. That's micro. Why do you have to keep on checking on me about what I'm doing? That's micromanaging. And you can see it comes down to basically the relationship of the perception the employee has with their management. So I think for some people, the reason why I say it two ways is because for some people they feel like this. So I think as an employer, I know it's hard to adjust currently to this, because employers are a bit anxious. They want people to be productive, right? It's a very tough time in the economy. But you can also kind of lead a bit by kind of giving people some trust, like have some warmth when you're talking to them, and help people understand that the reason we're doing this is not because I'm trying to micromanage you to make sure you're doing your work. The reason we're doing this is so that everyone knows what everyone's doing, and we're all aligned, and we can move, coordinate and move forward as a team, right? And there's not going to be any trust issues between. So the way the employer communicates with the person as they're talking about this is important, right? You're not there to like, hey, what you been doing yesterday? How come I haven't done this? Like, if you go down that path, right, it's so unpleasant for the employee to want to talk to you. Do you see what I mean? Every time I want to talk to you, I get a scolding. So it's not a pleasant kind of interaction. So both sides need to kind of adjust and kind of say, if an employee comes and say, oh, look, I didn't manage to do this because of 1, 2, 3, and the employer, I suggest you don't snap immediately, kind of work through with them a bit, have some empathy and say, oh, okay, I understand. So how do you think I can help you with this? And over time, you kind of make the employee don't feel a feeling of negativity when they want to actually talk to you. In fact, they will look forward to actually talk to you because they know that you're coaching them or you're going to help them with this. So that's how trust builds over time. You can do the short weekly schedule. Like if they don't volunteer, by the way, to proactively share with you what they're doing, I suggest you might do like a quick 10 minutes with them every week, just to get them used to it, to kind of build that habit.
All right, thank you for the answer just now. So it is very important to have communication between the employers and employees, and it always goes hand in hand, where actually it goes both ways. Not only the employees have to play the role, the employees as well. So you have to you have to always play your role. Like employees, you cannot micromanage, and the employee at the same time, you don't take advantage on the leniency of the employer. So we're moving on to our next question from Sam. How do we cope with employers who micromanage because of the lack of trust? I think Derek already answered a little bit on this, but maybe Derek, you can add more a bit.
Yes, I think so. I did mention over communicate a little bit earlier, but what I want you to imagine, right, as with any kind of human relationship, right? This is not just between employer and employer. When there are two people with a relationship with each other, there's some kind of emotional bank between the two of you, right? Emotional bank being that if I help you, and I keep building the emotional bank, and then you help me, and then you keep building it, and it stacks up, and in the emotional bank is full, there's trust between both sides, right? But in the case when the emotional bank is empty, right? Like there's no you constantly tell me off when I do something wrong, and I don't feel I want to talk to you, so I keep hiding. It's like a negative cycle, right? And you keep depleting that bank. There's only one direction you will go. So when I say over communicate, what I'm really telling the employee is that you volunteer. Yes, maybe your employer's personality is like this, or maybe the emotional bank is like zero. There's no trust there. You keep on over communicating what you're doing. You keep on trying to build trust. You take the step forward, and over time they will reciprocate, right? Because you will find that the employers probably have people that they don't feel the same, like they trust, and it might be because the emotional bank is very full. So the best way you can actually do it is basically to volunteer, proactively over communicate, and try to build trust yourself, and hopefully they reciprocate. Now, obviously, there will be cases that if you do this a long time and nothing changes, and that's really your employer is like that, then that can't be helped. I'm not asking people to change jobs. I'm just saying that obviously, what you can probably do is work on yourself, right? Because the question, let's say if you're thinking, how can I change my employer? What technique can you use to change my employer? It's not so useful because it's very hard to change them. So you focus on what you can do, which is like you try to build trust with them, you proactively over communicate, and hopefully they reciprocate.
Yeah, I like that sharing where we cannot change someone, but you always can change yourself. So when you can change yourself, you can always influence others to change as well, right? So we have more questions from the audience. It's from Emily this time. There's a downside for working remotely, as there is a tendency for many to continue working even after office hour or over the weekend, because it is too convenient now for workaholics to work non-stop. So what is your view on this?
You're talking to someone who works non-stop, so I'm not sure whether I can give you good advice. I will come and fall back a little bit about the concept of work-life balance. Me, on a personal level, I think work-life balance isn't the right word to be thinking about. I think it just depends on you, like what your preference is. Some people enjoy doing that work, and they're still able to have that family time. They're able to figure it out, and they work late, they work on the weekends, but they like it. That's up to you. So I don't think it is really an issue, as long as you know how, what kind of life that you actually want, right? So I wouldn't say that just because I make you stop at 7 o'clock or 6 o'clock, suddenly your life will be happier. Some people, they start at 7 o'clock and say, I don't know what to do now, right? You want me to watch want to watch TV? I don't watch TV. I don't know what to do. I like doing what I'm doing, which is me, which is basically me. So I like doing what I'm doing, but I have a great relationship with the family, because when I'm with the family, I really focus on family time. What I can suggest, though, for employers, by the way, is to try to respect people's time at home, because I know employers, again, people are anxious. You want your team, you want your employees to be really productive. I have to tell everyone, like, if it's past 6, 7 o'clock, whatever your office hours are, really, really refrain from trying to ask them a question or like trying to give them work at that time. Let everyone have their family time. If your employee reaches out to you to ask a question, to discuss something, that's fine, right? I have people who work really hard in the company, and on weekends they message me asking me questions, or they want something. I talk to them, because that's their choice. But I will never do it the other way around, if that makes sense. If I think of something on a Saturday or Sunday and I need to talk to, say, person A, what I do is I write the note, and I'll schedule that note to be sent out on Monday morning, so that they get it on Monday. I don't interrupt their weekend. So what I suggest for employers to do is to do that, like respect of people's time. If they want to work harder, that's up to them, but it shouldn't be imposed on them.
All right, that's a very interesting view from Derek on work-life balance, or maybe we can redefine it to work-life optimization, because not everything is about balance. It's not everything about yin and yang. There's always a gray area in the middle. So now we're moving on to the next question from Game. May I know what is the minimum capital outlay to implement this initiative for a team environment of 10 staff? So...
I think I'm not sure which initiative you're actually referring to. I suppose it depends on the timing on when the question was actually asked. But everything that I shared earlier, from the 3 A's, to the kind of daily huddles that we do, all this doesn't cost any money. It's just process, right? We're just building process. So if you're referring to those things, everything that I shared about, like working based on your calendar, all those things are just process. So anyone can implement it. Any company can implement it. I mean, we are not a big company in the grand scheme of things, and we implement a lot of these work practices very effectively.
All right, again, if you feel that doesn't answer your question because we are not sure which initiative are you referring to, you can always reach Derek to his LinkedIn. So we have another question from Esther. Does your company require all employees to be on video mode during discussion or meetings for greater authenticity interactions? Some people may prefer to be on black screen mode, perhaps due to WFH. They are not comfortable to be seen and for privacy reasons, unlike in office where most would be wearing office attire, etc., and on a face-to-face mode. Yeah, interesting question as well. So what do you think, Derek?
The answer is yes. Everyone has to be on video. And if you're not dressed to be on video, get dressed, right? Because again, I come back to the 3 A's. You're supposed to be active and accessible. That means if someone, imagine you're in the office, right? Except you're not. If someone was contacting you and want to talk to you, you have to be able to switch on the video and talk to them immediately, right? So, so again, I'm not asking anyone to put on a shirt or tie. That's not what I'm saying. But dress professionally, comfortably at home, but professional, that we can talk to people and they're comfortable. So we do town halls with 50 people, and even though I'm the only person speaking, I require all 50 people to switch on their video. Only a small group of people sometimes don't, and they explain why. Maybe really their home environment is not suitable to have that video, but 99% of the people switch on their video. So we do force people to do it, because I think, I would use the word they're using, there's greater authenticity interaction. Not only can I hear your voice, I can see your face, and it's actually much more efficient.
All right. Okay, we have come to the last question from the audience. It comes from Nurul. How do we stay motivated to be productive while working at home? Is there any tips to improve motivation or morale?
Yeah, I think so. Coming back to what I talked about today, right? I think the biggest challenge for working from home is that you're not around colleagues and you're a different environment. When you're actually in the office, like I said earlier, when you walk in the office, it signals to you the workday has started. You see your colleagues, there's this energy, right? There's a social element to it, being in the office. You're talking to people. You're working, you're also talking to your friends, and you energize each other. Now, at work, you can work, but you can't replicate that feeling of being around your colleagues. And that's the reason why I suggested doing a daily morning huddle to help the team start the day together. We're all together. We're all in separate places, but we can see each other, and let's talk about what we're all doing today, right? So and the second thing is do it over video so that you can actually see each other. It's not just on the phone. It's not so cold, and you see each other. And again, when I say do video, what I mean is that even any small thing, if I want to ask a colleague a question, if it's a 1-minute question, I never call, I do a video call, right? And it's the same for everyone. They want to ask me something very quick, just 2 questions, 1 question, they do a video call, right? They don't do it on the phone. And that kind of, as much as possible, kind of recreates that energy, even though you're working from home. I will kind of add on to say that if working from home 100% goes on permanently, it's a challenge. This everything I suggested right now helps you stay a bit motivated, helps reduce, I suppose, what it feels like to be working from home, but you should still see your colleagues. So if this is something that we haven't implemented yet in work, but we will. If this goes on for a very long time and people don't see each other enough, we'll probably ask our colleagues to schedule coffees with each other every now and then, or to have one-on-one chats over video every now and then to recreate that feeling of being in a team, even though there may not be an obvious necessity for it. But it's very important, I find, in order to keep everyone's... not everything's transactional, right? We're all people, we're all human beings, and that relationship is really important.
All right, thank you, Derek, for the session. I think we have reached to the end of the session today. This time. So thank you so much for your time. And I know that you have a lot of questions, but we couldn't share it now. You can always reach Derek on his LinkedIn account. And we still have more for you guys after this. Please stay tuned and see you guys. Thank you once again, Derek, for for the sharing just now on the work and life balance, or we are redefining it to optimization. So, ladies and gentlemen, that is not the end of our first. That is the end of first session today, but not the end of the whole program. We will be right back after lunch break with more exciting sessions. So, our afternoon session will start at 2:30 p.m. and we will cover one of the most pressing health issues nowadays, which is mental and emotional wellness. And towards the end of the program, there will be another panel discussion that will discuss on the benefits and limitations of online and offline doctors. Okay, to learn more about the forum program and profile of our speakers, you can always scan the QR code on your top right of your screen, or you can visit us at bit.ly/WXHagenda. I repeat, bit.ly/WXHagenda. Before you continue with the rest of the day, please help us in completing a short survey for this session. As you exit this webinar, there will be an auto pop-up of the questionnaire. Your feedback means a lot to us as we continue in providing great experience for you at our upcoming events. So, till then, thank you and see you guys later at 2:30 p.m. Enjoy your lunch!